There's the people in the media doing that to me, like you cannot believe it. I caught you with the full forehead. That's where it came from. You were. What's that?
Your interpretation is interesting because I mean, according to what Swayman says in their locker room, he was.
Let's go with him. We're good. We're in Boston. Stay with the Bruins, brother. I'm with you.
I'm from Brooklyn, man. I ain't from Boston.
Well, I didn't know I was sitting in the company of Paul Maurice's favorite media personality from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Let's be specific.
So it got a little complicated last night when Maurice called me out because, like, now I am from Brooklyn. Like, I went from Brooklyn to come to Boston to cover this game. People know canonically I am from New Jersey originally. And then later on in the conversation, it became a thing where he said I was from Brooklyn, and then he pontificated that I would then select the Rangers to beat the Panthers in the next round.
That was my favorite part of the clip, by the way.
Thereby proclaiming that the Panthers will play the Rangers in the next round. Quite a prediction from a head coach in the league, by the way. But I didn't want to exacerbate the situation by being like, well, actually, I'm from Mattawa, New Jersey, and I'm known as a Devils fan. I don't think I'd be selecting the Rangers against your team, who I believe are better than the Rangers anyway. I didn't want to get into a whole thing. So I was from Brooklyn. I just wanted to establish I wasn't from Boston. And then we go from there. The whole point of this, Arda, is that the man walked into the room after Game 4 looking for a fight. Before he started chirping at me, he looked at somebody in the front row and was like, why the sour face? Like, he was scanning the media to see how we were reacting to what he had to do over the last 48 hours, which is kind of make up some stuff about the Bennett hit on Marchand, and then definitely kind of finesse the goalie interference thing into being a cut and dry black and white win for the Panthers when the majority of the hockey world thinks that the Bruins got jobbed. And that's a tough gig. I understand why he is on the defensive when he comes into that room. And then, we had our little back and forth.
We have a lot to talk about as it pertains to the city of Boston. You're listening to The Drop. Greg Wyshynski, Arda, Öcal here with you every single Monday and Thursday, wherever you get your audio podcasts. As well, the NHL on ESPN, YouTube. Winners and losers from the weekend. That's how we like to start our early of the week podcast. I'm going to go with another Boston team my first winner. Boston from the PWHL, a fantastic playoff performance against Montreal. The bitter rivals fight forever. They continue on in the PWHL. Triple overtime, players playing over an hour of ice time. Our colleague at ESPN, Hillary Knight, 49 minutes. Yeah. I texted her this morning. She said it was the longest game of her life. And it was just a wild situation to be in. But yeah, a great game and great hockey.
Wild situation, great crowd. And then, the game's on YouTube. And it was amazing to see the audience grow and grow and grow as the overtimes kept increasing. And then, it's that moment of where people online, if you're online following the NHL action, you're also keeping a window open to watch the PWHL action, which was awesome to see.
Yeah, so shout out to the Boston PWHL team as they win in triple overtime over Montreal this weekend.
Loser! The Boston Bruins versus the National Hockey League. All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
What did you think of the goalie interference call in Game 4?
So they, in detail, explained why it wasn't called. I understand the explanation that was given.
Do you?
I understand from the point of view of the way it was explained.
Yeah.
I believe it was definitely goaltender interference. Right. I think everyone watching it is even more confused about goaltender interference. But then there will be some people that say, well, this is the letter of the law, and it wasn't called at the time, right? Like the push by Sam Bennett on Charlie Coyle was not called as a penalty.
Right, the cross-check.
The cross-check was not called.
Yeah.
And even though he went into the goaltender, in that scenario, it is not a penalty. It is not a penalty or reviewable.
So it's not reviewable for the cross-check.
Yes.
But it's obviously challengeable for the goalie interference.
But it was deemed not to be, yes.
So to break it down real quick, the rule book says one thing,
yes,
and the standards of enforcement that are given to the general managers and the officials, I think, say another thing. So the NHL, for those that don't know, reminds everybody before the season through videos and through a big book of things, examples, how they officiate things. And according to Paul Maurice, the Panthers head coach and my new best friend, he said the standards of enforcement would indicate that because Swayman, in theory, wouldn't have stopped the puck anyway, that the not overturning the goal was the correct call. Now, again, this is different than the rule book, because in the rule book, it clearly states that if a defensive player knocks an opponent into the goaltender, it is as if the defensive player himself, or it is as if the attacking player himself made contact with the goalie.
Okay.
And it's very cut and dry in the rule book.
Okay.
Like, what happened should have not allowed that goal to stand in the rule book. In the standards of enforcement, it might have been different. Here's how I saw it.
Okay.
Unless you got a crystal ball, you don't know what Swayman's doing on that play. And what Swayman's doing on that play, sans crystal ball, is having his blocker and his stick pinned to the ice by an opponent that fell on it. Now, my suspicion, Arda, is that this goal was not overturned, one, because they didn't think Swayman could stop the puck, and two, because, and this is just theoretical here, I bet they think Charlie Coyle went down a little too softly. I think they thought that Coyle went down a little too easily with the cross-check in the back and was one of the reasons why this play happened. That's my theory.
To be fair, that does seem to happen around the crease a lot.
But it doesn't matter on this play.
Agreed.
The
Yes.
end result is that Coyle, an attacking player, makes contact with Coyle, who then falls on his goaltender. I asked former officials. I asked former players. I have yet to find anyone that agrees with the National Hockey League and the on-ice officials that this goal should stand. And so let me give you a devil's advocate. The only devil's advocate is that on the play, you don't see Swayman really make an effort to move back to his right. And maybe if he's flailing around like the fish in the Faith No More video, and he's trying to get back, but he can't because he's got Charlie Coyle on top of him, maybe then it becomes a little bit more obvious. But that's the only thing I can think of, is that, like, there's no movement by Swayman to really go back and play the puck, and maybe they believe that he wouldn't have made a difference in the play anyway, which, again, not in the rule book, but apparently how they enforce it.
There's been plenty of instances where we've seen a player graze or clip a goaltender and a puck go in beyond him.
Right.
And whether he was able to make the save or not in the blue paint, called goaltender interference.
Yes.
And this one, eye test alone, looked egregious. Obviously, anyone watching it in real time would probably be like, yeah, that's goaltender interference.
Completely. And Swayman himself said he was unable to play his position, which, of course, is the standard in the rule book. Couple more things on this one. Don Sweeney on Monday morning.
Listened to his call. You listened to his...
Don Sweeney's the GM of the Boston Bruins. Yeah. He did a press conference on Monday morning, and everybody in Boston is like, "Oh, Donnie's gonna unload with both barrels on the NHL. Get ready for it, baby." Here's what Donnie did. Donnie said, "If you're in the media, don't ask my coach about goalie interference." He said, ask the NHL to give you a referee or an official to talk to. Don't put my coach on the spot. And the entire time I'm hearing this from Don Sweeney, I'm saying to myself, it's called a coach's challenge. You're asking us not to ask the man who made the challenge. How is that logical?
Where was the reverse angle of the Sam Bennett punch on Brad Marchand all this time?
Okay, so...
You know what this reminds me of?
What? What does that remind you of?
To bring it back to pro wrestling, because everyone loves when we do this. Two things. Number one, this is like when the Royal Rumble ends in a tie.
Yeah, and they both hit the floor at the same time.
And they both hit the floor at the same time. And suddenly on Raw, like a week or two later, there's another camera angle that shows you who actually hit the floor first.
Right.
And by the way, Sam Bennett was totally using brass knuckles on Brad Marchand, just hiding it from the referees.
All right. So on that thing, I don't know what happened with that particular camera angle.
Okay.
But I do know this, that angle, while showing us a shade of that play that we didn't previously see, and maybe thinking that it's a bit more egregious than any other angle showed, I don't think it moves the needle on that play.
Why not?
Well, because you have to remember that this would be a hearing, right? So the Bruins would have their say. Our guy got hit in the face. Our captain, we lost him, upper body injury. And then the Panthers will have their say. And here's what the Panthers would say. They would say, Sam Bennett is putting his arm up to protect himself on a hit that's coming his way. And while it looks like he's taking a swing at Brad Marchand, it is not that. He is simply trying to protect himself. He puts his arm up. He doesn't have the time. This is what Bennett said himself. He doesn't have the time to premeditate a punch in that situation on Marchand. So, again, we're all going to believe what we want to believe on the play, but the plausible deniability of the Florida Panthers, even with that extra camera angle, probably means he's not getting suspended anyway. And also, the Department of Player Safety has been pretty good on a lot of things. Punches is not one thing they've been pretty good at. Now, that being said, this is the last time Sam Bennett is going to be able to do this, because he did it against Matthew Nyes last year before he rock bottomed him behind the net, or in the Toronto Florida series. And you could see the replay. It's very similar to the Marchand play, where he uses his glove and knocks the guy in the face with it as contact is being made. So I think that's strike one. This is strike two, and he's not going to be able to do this again if it happens a third time. But on this one, I truly believe that even, whether they had the angle, it didn't matter, because I don't think he's getting a suspension for this.
Again, Sam Bennett took a page out of pro wrestling, and this is what he did. For those that are watching on YouTube right now, the referee is behind me, okay? Reaches, grabs the brass knuckles, shields. Here's Brad Marchand coming in. He goes like this, bam!
Yeah.
Just like that. Ref doesn't see a thing.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And if he did see it, he would just throw the brass knuckles to Brad Marchand. Eddie
Guerrero style.
And then Marchand gets the penalty, obviously. We all know that. Before we get to winners, let's just go through it all. Let's just get through all the controversial stuff at the beginning of the episode.
All right, let's do it.
Connor McDavid ended the Oilers Vancouver game.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
But he instigated.
Well, let's talk about
Okay,
instigating.
let's talk about instigating.
For those, let's just reset it for the people that don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
End of the game, Connor McDavid and Carson Soucy get tangled up behind the net. This is after the buzzer. Okay, so this is the sequence that I saw. You correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Soucy gives him a shove. McDavid responds with a pretty wicked slash.
Yep.
Soucy comes back with his own slash. Here comes Nikita Zadorov from the top rope with a cross check in the back of McDavid
To the numbers.
and then Soucy comes in with a cross check to McDavid's neck, basically, and head. And as he's falling,
he's cross-checking as Zadorov finishes his cross-check, and that makes McDavid change levels.
Right. Not to make this completely about wrestling, but it was total elimination.
Total elimination
from
exactly.
the eliminators.
Exactly.
The
Good job. Great job.
Um,
but now the counterpoint to McDavid being cross-checked in the head was people don't think that Soucy was necessarily aiming for the head with the cross-check. He was aiming for the chest, but because of Zadorov's cross-check, it brought McDavid's head down.
Right.
And it just was an unfortunate timing situation.
As we do the show, player safety has said there's a hearing for Soucy.
Yes.
And Zadorov got fined. And so the two things that I think here, in talking to some sources before the show, are the fact that it was after the buzzer, and they're just not going to tolerate that. Like, they'll tolerate that play if it's in the middle of the second period, but not if it's after the buzzer. That's a huge thing.
Okay.
The other key thing to this, too, is that I've seen a lot of people, particularly in Vancouver, make the argument that McDavid instigated the situation by slashing him. It doesn't work like that. Okay? It is not a situation where they're going to look at the slash and be like, well, then everything else that happens after that is exonerated because McDavid started it. No, it doesn't work like that. A cross-check to the head is more egregious than a slash on the leg, and that's just how it goes. And so, now there's a hearing. There's probably a suspension for it. Is it the right call? Probably, because you do have to be responsible for your stick. Like, that's the nuts and bolts of it. But Arda, I saw someone point this out after the incident. If this is Mahomes in the NFL, this is LeBron in the NBA, and your biggest name gets treated like that after a buzzer on a play where somebody hits him in the head,
heads will roll.
That is going to be a suspension in every other league for their star player.
Yes.
And there is a lot of people out there that are like, protect the stars better. Well, this is a classic case of them protecting a star better.
Yeah, you can't get away with cross-checking Connor McDavid in the face.
You
Whether it was
shouldn't be able to get
intentional
away
or
with
not,
that. No.
you're just not getting away with it.
But again, this whole thing of he started it. What are we 9?
We're in the playground, right? We're in the playground, and the person that punches second gets sent to the principal's office.
And it's also not a thing where you're you shoot a slingshot at a guy and then he drops a neutron bomb on you. It's basically the escalation that we saw in this play.
Winner and loser goaltending. Let's start with the Vancouver Canucks as a winner. Arturs, the GOAT Silovs, with a 42 save performance in Game 3. despite the fact that Leon Draisaitl was not impressed by his performance, as GSP would say.
Yeah.
Because, hey, the post is not goaltending.
Post is not goaltending. And
Some people would say that
Yeah.
the post is, maybe you should aim for the net.
to which someone said, I didn't realize that Stuart Skinner's nickname was the Post, which I thought was mean, but also pretty funny. He's been awesome. Like, again, one of these amazing stories that comes up when a team is on a run,
Yep.
saves the day after the Demko injury, and has played really well.
Yes.
Like, has played really
Gotta
well.
give him credit.
Yeah. So that's one. The other one, obviously, is Jake Oettinger in the Colorado-Dallas series. 28 saves in Denver, Game 3. Backstopping Dallas to a 2-1 lead in that series. He's been on a bit of a roller coaster in these playoffs, but I think he's really played well so far in the Avalanche series.
On the Skinner note, are we on shaky ground? Has the confidence waned? Got pulled? Where are we as it pertains to Stuart Skinner?
Well, it should tell you a lot, Arda, that one of my losers is Edmonton's goaltending situation. He had a terrible Game 3. They pulled him. You've heard people openly wondering if Jack Campbell could be brought up from the minor leagues to come play and start a game for Edmonton. The only thing he has going in his favor, Skinner, is that after losses, he's been great. I think he's 9-1 after losses, including like 8 wins in a row. So he's got that going for him. But again, he won his last game after a loss and looked bad in the process. So can they trust him? I don't know. Because I think they played really good D in front of him in Game 2 to win that game. This is a mess. And we've talked about it on the show before. All Stuart Skinner had to be is a guy that didn't lose you a series, but he is not being that guy right now.
No, and you've said that many times on this show, and I couldn't agree more, because that team is so good that if the goaltender can't keep up his part of the bargain, which is not exorbitant, that's going to be a huge problem. And finally, winner, delaying the inevitable. Looking at you, Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, let's hear it for the Canes. No quit in Raleigh, as they don't say. Again, late power play goal. They were like, what, now one for $1 billion in this series? And
when it counted.
They extend it. I mean, good for them. I was saying to a lot of people before that game, you could see the writing on the wall of either a gentleman's sweep or maybe they extend it a little bit more. It is delaying the inevitable. I think the Rangers still win the series, but good on Carolina. Carolina did not go out softly in the conference final last year against Florida, and they showed a good bit of moxie in this game as well. Problem for them is that there was nothing in this game that really puts the fear of God in the Rangers. Like, if Freddie Anderson came out and stopped like 41 of 42 shots, you're like, uh-oh, here he goes.
Right.
But he looked terrible. So, like, there's nothing in that game where the Rangers look at it and be like, like that scene in A New Hope where they go to Tarkin and they're like, sir, there's a certain amount of danger right now. We were thinking about evacuating the Death Star. And he's like, and then Peter Laviolette's like, evacuate in our moment of triumph? Surely you overestimate their chances.
Yes, I like the reference. Thank you. And the Death Star, of course, destroying Alderaan, which is what the Rangers plan to do to the Carolina Hurricanes. I will say this. This is from Megan Chayka and Stathletes. The last sweep last year, Florida Panthers, and this year almost sweep New York Rangers. All of those games were 1-goal games. All of those games, the Carolina Hurricanes had the advantage in shot attempts. Mm-hmm. All of those games, the Carolina Hurricanes, in all but 2 games had the scoring chances advantage and the puck possession advantage. Yeah. So they're playing well. They're just not scoring when they need to. And to your point about power play this season, it just hasn't been clicking.
And let's pause on that, because you had the name flip-flop, but it did make me think that we did not give the Panthers their flowers. Like, we talked a lot about the controversy and the hit and the Bennett of it all. This team's playing incredibly well. They flipped the switch in the second period of game 4 last night, where Boston was doing a great job clearing the zone, getting out of danger, and then the Panthers just kind of like got more zone time, and they felt like, oh, here it comes, it's coming. And then Lindell scores the goal, and then they're off to the races after that. They're playing extraordinarily well, and what's interesting about this team right now is 2 things. One, and I said this to Paul Maurice this morning, because we were fine, we can talk like adults, is that they haven't need Matthew Tkachuk to be the hero.
No.
Remember last series against Boston? Like, every single game was influenced by something he did. And it hasn't been like that. And Maurice said, look, I think our depth is better than last year, and we need him sometimes to put on the cape and be Superman, but we don't need him to carry us in the same way. So that's one thing. The other thing that's really interesting is that
Superman a lot last season, too.
he was. But Bobrovsky's numbers suck, but he's playing well. and Maurice made this argument, too, and I think it's a good one, which is that unlike last season, he is facing a much, much lower shot volume. He's basically doing the Marty Brodeur thing of like sit in a lawn chair, wait for a shot, and then hope it's going to be a high danger chance. You're going to have to make the save, but there's not going to be a lot of them. And so his argument is that Bob's playing well. He's not facing shot volume. He's facing a lot of grade A chances when he is seeing them, but he is winning games. And his argument, and it's an interesting one, is that at this stage of his career, that should be the only metric. Who gives a crap about save percentage in the playoffs? Just show me you won the game.
Yeah.
And I think the Oilers would take that in a millisecond at this point, and that's what's happening with the Panthers right now.
Paul Maurice sort of Grand Moff Tarkin that press conference, I guess he could.
I mean, I thought it was more Palpatine than anything else.
With the hood, just showed up
Look
with
at
the hood.
you, cheating on the Boston Bruins. Oh, you're from Brooklyn? No. Okay.
That's like a South Park version of Palpatine.
And then he talked about the conference final and shot me with blue lightning. It was really weird. I don't know what the hell was happening.
Some of these players this postseason have looked like they've been shot out of a cannon. Let's power rank our playoff players as we stand today.
Yeah.
Through the second round of the playoffs as they have transpired so far.
Mm-hmm.
We have a top 10 list.
Yeah, this
We
is
have ranked
based
them.
on playoff performance.
Only.
And also, there's some meaning behind some of these, like their influence on a series, for example. These are our official Stanley Cup playoff player power rankings. Number 10 for me is a good example. This guy is not Kyle McCarr. This guy is not racking up the Evan Bouchard points. This is Chris Tanev.
Hell yeah.
The man is not paid to score. The man is paid to prevent it. And the Dallas Stars are outscoring opponents 6-2 at 5-on-5. They have a .977 save percentage when Chris Tanev is on the ice. He's doing a hell of a job against the Avalanche's top offensive players in this series. I think he is the 10th best player so far in the playoffs.
Number 9.
Vincent Trocheck of the New York Rangers. I wrote about him this weekend, and I've talked about on the show before how I freely admit being wrong about this man because I did not think he was all that great. It turns out he is very great. He touches every part of the game for the Rangers. Power play, even strength, shorthanded. He's a bit of a miscreant on the ice. He can get under your skin a little bit. 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points for Trocheck. Were you a Trocheck guy? Or were you like me?
Not
Where
to
you're
this
just like,
degree.
yeah, you were like, all right, whatever.
And he's
about
been
him, right?
clutch for them, too. That's the thing. Like,
he's been great for
he's
them.
been excellent. And but those are the guys you need in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, like, the Rangers fans, especially, are very happy that they have someone like Trocheck on.
Yeah, he's been
the roster.
great.
Yeah. Number 8.
So he's number 9. Number 8, Alexander Barkov. Again, like we just talked about, they haven't needed Tkachuk. They haven't needed Reinhart to take over games. Barkov's been great. 3 game-winning goals so far in the playoffs.
Nice.
5 goals, 8 assists. He had the game winner in Game 4 against the Bruins. We're starting to see a little Conn Smythe case being built by our friend Alexander Barkov. And if you asked a lot of people before the playoffs, like, who do you think could win? It'd probably be him, Tkachuk, and Bobrovsky. And I think that Barkov right now probably has the inside track.
When he plays his 200-foot game, like, sometimes he falls off, but when he's on, like, when he plays that game, I hear it all the time, whether it's on social media or even just getting text messages. He's the best player in the league. He's the best player in the league. Just complete. He's the most complete player in the league. Like, I hear that a lot when he is at his peak.
Right, because Torts keeps texting you.
That's right, it's just Torts.
That's Torts' big thing. Like, I was on the point with him once where we stood by a big board, and I'm like, McDavid's the best player in the league, and Torts is like, no, actually, it's Barkov. And like everybody's like, what? But I mean, when he plays this well, he makes the
But it's
argument.
not just him. I will say that. A lot of people are like, yeah, he's...
Yeah.
Like, it's tangible.
Yeah, it's also a guy named Ton Jordarella that texts you to say, I believe Barkov is the best player in the league.
I just have, like, the burner Twitters that are going on. Number 7.
Let's go Valeri Nichushkin.
Okay.
I think that McKinnon has been great for them, but it's hard to argue with 9 goals from Nichushkin. Like, he's got 9 goals. I mean, it is a bit of a NHL 94 glitch, when you play the season. And then, like, there's somebody... Like, I used to play the season on the SNES with, like, 94 or 95 NHL. And, like, it would glitch out. And, like, someone like Mike Sillinger would have, like, 80 goals.
Yeah, of course.
It's the glitch. It's 9 goals, 1 assist for 2 game winners for Nichushkin. And he's been great for them.
Number 6, Wyatt Johnston.
Let's go.
Oh man, what a revelation he's
Right.
been, right? But it's not like he's been a complete secret.
No.
But like he's just continuing a great career.
Yeah.
Like early on in his career, he's got 8 points. He's got an OT game-winning goal.
Yeah.
So he can step up in those clutch moments.
Right.
He's getting a job done everywhere.
And again, the thing that's exciting about Dallas is they've got the old guys that need a cup.
Yes.
And you got the guys in their prime, like Oettinger and Jason Robertson. And then you got the youth movement of Wyatt Johnston and Logan Senkoven. And like,
Yes.
it's awesome that you need that injection of youthful exuberance, I think, on a real championship team, and they've provided it.
That's one of the secret sauces, right? If you
Totally.
can get those early rookie, the ELC guys
Yeah.
that overperform
Yeah.
or perform beyond expectation,
Right.
that's always going to take you deep into the postseason.
It helps you.
It helps you, yeah.
On the cap, and it helps you on the ice. Number 5, I wanted to kind of put this guy higher, but I don't know. I guess there are other people that are a bit more worthy. But Brock Besser, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. Vancouver's outscoring opponents 7-3 with Besser out there, and his performances have been epic. I mean, like the 2 goals against Edmonton in Game 3, the hat trick against Nashville in that key game in Nashville. I think it was Game 4 of that series. Like the things he's done for them are really, really important, and I put him at number 5.
Number 4 might surprise some. Connor McDavid is at number 4.
Yeah.
I put Connor McDavid at number 4, just to be fair. You had him at number 3.
Well, explain yourself.
I think that we haven't gotten to many goaltenders on this list yet, and I believe that the goaltenders that we will be soon speaking about on this list have made a bigger impact to the success of their teams overall than Connor McDavid. Now, that's not to say that Connor McDavid is not the best player in the NHL, and that's not to say that Connor McDavid has not had an incredible impact this postseason. He's on his 100 assist clip again
And
in the postseason.
he's number 4. I mean, it's not like we have him at number 40.
It's not like he missed the top 10. It's not like we're trying to besmirch the good name of Connor McDavid. I'm just saying I felt like this is on me, so you control me on social if you want. I felt like the goaltenders we are about to speak about have had a larger impact for the success of their team in particular.
Yeah.
Also because of who number 1 is.
Yeah. And again, like number 1 and number 4 could flip flop if you want, but we'll get there. Number 3 is Igor Shesterkin. That's the person you put over Connor McDavid. Explain yourself.
I did. 927 save percentage. He's 7-1. He's made some clutch saves. He's been the rock that the Rangers need in net in order to continue on. There has been parts of this season where people were like, whoa, remember a few months ago we were having this conversation about, not even a few months, maybe a couple months ago, it's like, man, Jonathan Quick is really, really good right now. Could he be the number 1 guy?
Do they even need Igor?
Do they
anymore?
need Igor?
They
Maybe
have
we should
a
trade him.
75-year-old Jonathan Quick.
Right.
Do they even need
Trade
Igor?
Igor at the trade deadline.
Might
Just
as
get
well.
rid of
Just
him.
do it. You don't
It's
even
okay.
need him.
You know what?
You don't even need him.
Mortgage for the future.
Right,
Come
exactly.
on.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have won the draft lottery and gotten Macklin Celebrini.
Right.
Come on. But in seriousness, Igor Shesterkin has found his groove again. How Igor found his groove back.
Yeah.
He's back in net. He's back to the Hart Trophy caliber Igor that we know and we love. And to me, look, I always say this. Maybe this is my bias showing. Goaltending is of paramount importance.
Yeah. And he's been great. I mean, he's faced roughly 70 unblocked shots from the Carolina Hurricanes and unscreened shots.
Still.
But it's fine. He's been great. Number 2, someone who's been even better, Jeremy Swayman of
Yes.
the Boston Bruins. You got to give it to Swayman. Like, Swayman's been unbelievably good for them to the point where, Jim Montgomery's making all this noise before Game 4 about, like, we might want to give a little a bit of a rest to some of the guys. They're not used to playing this much. And then, 5 minutes before the game, it's like, all right, Jeremy, go get him again. It's like, it doesn't even matter right now. The goalie rotation could have happened 50 years ago at this point because it's just Swayman's crease because he's been that good for them.
I would have put him at number 1 if not for maybe 1.5 or 2 bad games.
Yeah, 930 save percentage, 5-5 is what did it for me. Like 5-5.
Fine.
I mean, Shesterkin's 7-1.
That's tough to bet against. But number 1, I think, is a clear-cut favorite.
I think so too. I mean, again, I remember having this conversation with somebody recently about McDavid versus Draisaitl, and their argument, and it's a good one, is that McDavid is still the straw that stirs the drink. Like, he's still the guy that makes it all happen. Like when Draisaitl is getting off those incredible one-timers from almost below the goal line on the power play, like who's giving him the puck? It's usually McDavid. But that being said, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points, 10 of them on the power play. Draisaitl's been incredible, man. Like, incredible for them.
Yes.
And I'll put him ahead of McDavid. I'll put him ahead of the goalies. I'll make him the best player in the postseason. But Arda, if we have the best, don't we have to have the worst as well?
Oh, no.
Yes, we do.
All right, three of your worsts.
3 biggest disappointments of the postseason, Arda. Number 3, Joe Pavelski.
No!
Joe Pavelski's got... I know, it kills me as an American to say Joe Pavelski's name. 1 assist in
How
10
unpatriotic of you.
I know, right? 1 assist in 10 games. -2 for Joe Pavelski. I mean, this was the season where the old guy was going to get his cup. Dallas is great. What happened here? 1 assist.
He looked at Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven and said, you know what? I can reserve my energy for the conference final.
He kicked his feet up and he's like, you guys mow the lawn. I'll get it next week.
I'll have a couple drinks on the deck. You guys go ahead.
Exactly. Number 2, now if it weren't for the Canucks winning this series and winning the previous series and Besser and Miller both being great and the goaltending being what it is, there'd probably be a lot more discussion about the fact that Elias Pettersson has 4 points in 9 games. I know in Vancouver, there's a lot. Every time I do Vancouver radio, their first question is like, oh, so have the people outside of Vancouver noticed that Pettersson's not playing all that well? I'm like, not really. We don't care all that much at this point, but you guys certainly do. But yeah, 4 points in 9 games for one of the best players in the league is a little bit disappointing.
Sure. But to your point, it's being hidden because winning solves everything. So...
And finally, the
Meanwhile,
biggest disappointment in the playoffs, an .877 save percentage, a 3.22 goals against average, a -5.8 goals saved above average. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Stuart Skinner, the most disappointing player in the playoffs this season, a man that all he had to do was just stand there and let the puck hit him and have Connor and Leon do their thing. And by God, that's not even happening. We all expected him to Chris Osgood his way to a cup for a Ken Holland team. And Arda, it just hasn't happened quite yet.
Going back to what you said earlier, just needs to not lose a series. And when we look back on this, if the Oilers do get eliminated this season, remember, at the start of the season, it was cup or bust, cup or bust.
Yeah.
To look back on this era of the Edmonton Oilers, to have arguably the 2 best players in the NHL on the same roster, and to have a guy like Zach Hyman have the season that he did, and to have all these other pieces, proven Stanley Cup winners, and depth pieces, and solid defensemen like Matthias Ekholm, etc., they all contribute to this excellent roster. And everyone will be pointing at one spot as a major reason why this team couldn't get over the hump.
Which isn't fair. Because this team also is really playing poorly at 5-on-5 as far as generating chances outside of McDavid and Draisaitl.
Okay.
Like, part of the reason why we thought they could win, or I thought they could win, you thought they could win too, we both picked them, is because their depth was better. And it hasn't been better. And Vancouver's depth has been better. And that's really the issue right now. So that's 3 disappointments. Again, we don't want to make people feel bad. We want everybody to be happy. So start playing better so we don't have to do this bit again.
But we probably will do this bit again next round.
Shout out to the folks in Cleveland, the Monsters. Was it Pucks and Pierogies?
Yes.
T-shirt.
Impromptu search for merch.
Yeah, this wonderful Ukrainian. That's me. Thanks you for this. I was looking for a reason to wear it on the show. I wanted to wear it in studio at some point, so I finally found a reason.
I like the 70s motif of like the 70s like food mascot motif of the pierogi.
Correct.
In the shirt. That's
and
awesome.
they even have the little what do you call that? Like not a rind. What do you call it? The thing around the pierogi that's like the outer part of the
crust.
pierogi.
I actually don't know what it's called. I apologize to all pierogi makers out there.
I don't know
the
what exoskeleton of the pierogi. I don't know.
Yeah,
dude.
I'm sure it's exoskeleton.
Yeah, it's
that's what it
exoskeleton
is.
of the pierogi.
I guess I'll give a shout out to Rancors.
Oh yeah. There it is.
Shout out to Violent Gentleman for sending me a nice Star Wars hockey collab.
If I had to criticize the jersey, don't you think there should be a hockey stick jammed into the jaw of the Rancor, like Luke used the bone in the Rancor's jaw?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And it should be like Luke Skywalker running away or stuck in the pit.
Stuck in the pit.
Yeah. That's what should have happened. No, this is great. I like this. They sent a whole bunch of stuff. It's cool that they have like a Star Wars collab going on. So shout out to them. Awesome.
Well, a lot of Star Wars, a lot of wrestling. This is what happens. You get us in the same room.
Exactly. So that will not happen for the rest of the playoffs. I'm just kidding. Thanks for listening to the show. Every Monday and Thursday, wherever you get your audio podcast. As well, the NHL on ESPN YouTube. Where are you off to next?
Going to MSG for Game 5 as people hear this. And then who knows where else? I mean, it all depends on where these series are going next. Who's to say? It might be back in Boston if
True.
they get all the calls in Game 5. We'll see.
Who knows?
See what happens.
Just see your buddy Paul Maurice. We have lunch with him. You guys
Absolutely. We're tight now.
favorite Brooklynite. Bye, everyone.
Take care.